This is the World Satsanga on the 26th of April 2014. So just to confirm the people online right now, we've got Ula, Ivan, Mo, Lily, I think Chris is trying to get on, he's not there right now, John, Marnie and Marita. So we've got a good group here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that's a good group. Actually we had a number of different things to talk about. One was to let the system stabilise. The second one was to go through some information about the uncreated creations. But I might put that to next month actually, specifically because Ula's asked some questions that I think are going to be good questions anyway, that might allow me to push the back a month. And the next one was the breathing in and out of the multiverse, which is actually a very good one to leave in, because one of the things that's come out of the work I was doing on the Origin Speaks has, right at the very end actually, made me understand how my work links in with the work of the Hindu texts and the Upanishads, where they talk about the breathing in and out of the universe. So I'm going to leave that one in there, or I'm going to really work on what Ula's questions were. Now I need to look at this. Okay. Right. So let's look at Ula's question here, if I can find it. Okay. Right. So I'm going to read these out because you won't be able to see this yourselves. And the first question was, basically she got half a dozen questions about the true energetic self, that being the oversoul, or the higher self, or the Godhead, depending upon which way you look at it. They all mean the same thing. There's no change. It's just that the nomenclature I use is what I've been told to use by the source, but it all means the same thing. Right, so the first question is, are all the true energetic selves given the same amount of energy to begin with, or to work with? Or does it depend upon which multiverse, or in terms of full dimension within the multiverse, it started out at, after the program created by Source Entity 1? Right. We have to go back a bit further than the energies, because in essence, all source entities, when they create a being, first of all they have to hive off part of their sentience, and then assign that sentience to a body of energy. Now, when I use the word body of energy, I mean just a bunch of energies that are there together, that are grouped together, that are allowing the source to place the sentience within it. Now, these energies have to be of a certain type or a certain level of status, where they're capable of supporting sentience, or, in actual fact, capable of developing their own sentience given time. Now, in terms of the amount of energy, the answer to that question is yes, they are given the same amount of energy to begin with. It doesn't matter about which part of the multiverse they start at, because we all start at the same place. So, in essence, we're all allowed to work up through experiencing various parts of the multiverse. The lowest frequency, of course, giving us the rapid ascension, or should I say evolutionary ascension, that we can experience, because it's so difficult to work here. But in terms of the amount of energy, they're all given the same amount of energy. Now, the thing is that when a true energetic self starts to work with itself in a more profound way, we then start to recognize that actually the energy isn't what we are. It's the sentience that is us. And so at some point, we as true energetic selves start to work in and around the energies, or this body of energies that we're given by our source. And so what happens here is that we we start to realise that this body of energy, similar, in a similar way to we start to recognise the human body, is a transient condition. We can either keep it, or we can choose to move to another body of energy or other energies within the multiverse. So we can move around. We can move the sentience around the multiverse, should we decide to do so, by just moving it from one point or set of energies within the multiverse to another one, if you wanted to, or we can keep the same set of energies as those that were given to us by our source. So I'm hoping that that's answered that question. And she's got Ulla's asked another part to this, actually a part B. For example, the Om are higher up in the multiverse, so they have more energy. So they must have more. No, they don't have more energy as such. They have a different energetic genre. And actually, some Om don't belong to the multiverse. They belong outside of the multiverse. They belong outside of the energetic boundaries that are a particular source entity. There's 4 different types of Om. One is a pure Om, which exists in and around the space between the sources, and in and around the space that is part of the origins area of self-awareness, or volume of self-awareness, depending upon how you want to work with it. There are non-captive Oms as well, which are, shall I say, associated with a particular source entity, but aren't captive within the energies that is that source entity. But they tend to gravitate in, around that source. The other, the third version of Om is a captive Om, which still is largely Om energy itself, or should I say, energy which isn't specifically assigned to, or has been assigned sentience to, by a source entity, but they haven't got the mass, as it were. So in this instance, you might suggest that there is a difference in terms of the amount of energetic mass that an Om might have, depending upon its ability to break away from a source. But in this instance, the ability to break away was only in the initial state when the source entities were created and the energies that were reused by the origin in its first series of experiments by trying to recreate itself, and then recycle the energies within trying to create the source entities. This energy didn't mix, and it was a bit like oil and water, and it came out. But some of it stayed within boundaries of the source entities. The fourth Om is hybrid, which is basically a mixture of, or low percentages of Om energy and source entity energy. And so they are, although they're classified as Om, they're more likely to be, in real terms, more like a source entity energy from that perspective. The rest of this question is, they must have more energy than the energetic genre that make incarnates as humans, mostly around the third, fourth, or really fifth dimension. Yeah, it depends upon the Om type. Depends upon the genre of Om as to where they are. Note that when they're in a particular Om is incarnate, usually a hybrid Om, they are, or a captive Om, they are. Well, so they have to work with the same things that most people work with when they're incarnate. They have to work with the loss of functionality, the loss of memory, and the karmic cycle as well. Okay. 2. Does the true energetic self partition half its energy back, like source entity 1, as untouchable, or as a reserve from which it can make new pure aspects as needed? Yeah, they can. There is always going to be a larger amount of energy, or a body of energy, that exists or continues to exist within the multiversal condition. So that the vast amount of energy is outside of any incarnate cycle. So, for instance, if a true energetic self projected 12 aspects into an incarnate state, then those aspects wouldn't add up to the total amount of energy that is that true energetic self. It would be a smaller percentage of it, say 25% as an example. That's just an example figure, not an exact figure there, but most of what the true energetic self is remains in the disincarnate condition, in the purely energetic, and so it makes up to 12 from that perspective. And each of the aspects, of course, can create up to 12 shards, making a potential for 144 potential incarnations that can happen simultaneously. Okay. 3. As the true energetic self evolves, does the number of aspects increase or stay constant? And what is the average number of aspects per true energetic self? Well, does the number increase after evolutionary content is accrued, or do each of the aspects just get bigger or have more energy to work with? The energetic state is fairly static. Actually, as an entity evolves, it's more likely to lose energy because it recognises that it is a being of pure sentience that uses a body of energy, rather than an entity that is based upon energy. So it's more likely to lose energy rather than increase energy from that perspective. In terms of the number of aspects, there isn't really an average number of aspects that I would say a true energetic self would project. It just depends upon what it's doing and how it's doing it and what it's achieving in terms of its ability to project aspects of itself, or an aspect project shards of itself into various different conditions within the multiverse. I would suggest that, there is usually at least one or two aspects which is being projected into the physical aspects of the universe, of the multiverse, because they want to continually evolve. Although there are instances where true energetic selves do stay disincarnate totally. They don't project any aspect of themselves within any part of the multiverse, because they're doing it in a different way to that which is considered to be the fast track. The fast track being the ability to incarnate into the lower frequencies of the multiverse. So, if it evolves, I would suggest the number of aspects would decrease later, because you get to the point where it wouldn't need to project an aspect into the physical universe. It's gone past the need to evolve in that way. It can evolve purely through energetic interaction, rather than trying to use the opportunity to fast track via the more profound levels of experience through the incarnate state. Okay, so again, that would answer that question. But the average number, it's arbitrary basically. It doesn't matter. And again, the number does decrease after evolutionary content is accrued generally, because of the need, the lesser need to incarnate or have part of itself incarnate. Okay. 4. Do true energetic selves ever devolve, drop down in frequencies, or perhaps stay in stasis while their aspects are accruing or getting rid of karma? Or does the true energetic self always continue to ascend upwards in frequencies? Well, actually, there is a condition you might want to call devolution, where the true energetic self, when it enters into the incarnate state, does put its evolution in stasis. Okay, and what happens is that the work with the lower frequencies, and those aspects that work at lower frequencies, do accrue karma. They accrue attractivity to lower frequencies if they're not careful, as most people do, to be honest. We all have preferences or desires and like to work with certain parts of the physical world, and we have sensory addictions. We have addictions to certain thought processes, certain status conditions, and all of these different things are attractions to or addictions to the lower frequencies associated with the multiverse. the devolutionary condition is basically what happens is we go through a condition where we put our evolution on stasis while we are experiencing evolution, experience through the lower frequencies of the multiverse. Now, what happens there is that although if we hadn't have incarnated, we would have evolved in a certain pace, that pace stops. We put ourselves into evolutionary stasis, basically, until we get to the point where we no longer need to incarnate because we've overcome this karmic cycle. We've overcome the need or the desire or the addictions to wanting to incarnate or being incarnate. And so when that happens, the place that we would have got to from an evolutionary perspective is leapfrogged, in essence, because when we release this need to incarnate, we've beaten the karmic cycle. Actually, we progress beyond that point we would have done had we not evolved in the energetic purely. So we go into this evolutionary stasis, we work with lower frequencies, we get addicted or not, as the case may be, or work with it to the point where we release this level of addiction, and then we get catapulted beyond the area that we would have done had we just worked with the energetic. Okay. So the devolution isn't actually devolution as such, it's more of an evolutionary stasis whilst we are working with the karmic cycle. Think of it in terms of the true energetic self being a boat on a sea, and the aspects that are incarnate are a bit like a boat anchor, and they are thrown out from the boat and they hit the bottom and they stick on the bottom, and boat anchors can get stuck on rocks, or they can just drag along the ground. But in essence, until that anchor is pulled up, that boat will stay where it is. It's not allowed to move along the surface of the sea. When we get positive karma, if you want to think of it in those ways, when we're constantly working with higher frequency thought processes, higher frequency conditions, and we're not addicted to lower frequency thoughts or conditions or sensations, then we can start to move up the frequencies, and therefore the boat in this instance would rise above the surface of the sea. Okay, as an example. Right, 5. Do the true energetic selves work together at the true energetic self level, or just at the aspect of shard, or just at the aspect or shard levels when they work together on projects in the physical universe, or how is their karma divided up? Is there any mass karma effect that reverberates at the true energetic self level? Well, in essence, I'll answer the last bit first. Any karma that's accrued by an aspect or a shard that is projected into the lower frequencies by a true energetic self, ultimately does affect the true energetic self, because it stops it from evolving, from moving on. And from that perspective, we do incur some sort of individualized karma at the true energetic self level, and we can accrue mass karma at that level as well through group interactions and getting used to and working with certain types of individual that give us a certain thought process. The karma is based upon each piece of karma that's accrued by a specific aspect stays with that aspect until it's worked out. Although it's ultimately owned by the true energetic self, that particular aspect is a specialized part of that true energetic self. It's like a certain personality, if you want to call it that, within the true energetic self, because it's got a certain level of experience and can be specialized to experience certain experiences, and therefore projected into certain conditions where that particular aspect is good at responding to, or needs to respond to in this instance. It may well be that a specific aspect in its condition might only want to, or might only be used to incarnate on Earth. It's not usually the case, but that may be what a particular true energetic self might want a certain aspect of itself to do. So really, for that part of the question, the karma is owned by the aspect of the shard, which ultimately is owned by the aspect, and then it is maintained within the energies associated with that particular aspect, or that person, or that part of the true energetic self's personality that's worked in the physical and accrued certain levels of karma. So it's up to that part of the true energetic self. It's up to that aspect to work out that karma. Although ultimately the true energetic self is responsible for the karma anyway. Do true energetic selves work together at the TES level? Yes, they can. And actually, aspects can work together before being incarnate as well. And certain shards could, although it's not likely that they will do, but it's more likely that aspects can work together in the disincarnate state. And in fact, when we get aspects that work together and then incarnate, and they get together in a relationship condition, that's what's called a twin flame, rather than a soulmate. A soulmate is when the aspects of a single true energetic self work together, whereas a twin flame is one where the aspects of two different true energetic selves have worked together for quite some time. Okay, next one. For example, if 10 true energetic selves each send several aspects to participate in a warring situation, right, like in the physical universe, is the karma from killing other aspects or blowing up planets, etc., accrued at the aspect level only, not at the TES level? Yeah, it's all accrued at the aspect level, but again, ultimately owned by the true energetic self, because the aspects are individualized parts of the true energetic self. They are therefore linked to the true energetic self as well, and therefore everything is owned ultimately by the true energetic self, but those aspects are responsible for sorting out and removing the addiction to that particular part of the karma. Okay. And finally, I think 6, what would you say if somebody said the source, or God, is just an artificial mind entity? How is that different from a highly sentient being that created a multiverse? I'll read that out again. What would you say if someone said the source entity or God you describe is just an artificial mind entity? How is that different from the highly sentient being, source entity, that created a multiverse? Well, actually, if you think of it in those terms, the source, our particular source entity 1, is, again, a purely sentient entity with a body of energy, as we are, as those who incarnate are. And so, it is not specifically artificial as such, it is created by our origin to experience, learn and evolve in a separate but synchronistic and concurrent sense with all the other source entities are there, so that the origin can experience, learn and evolve by a factor of the number of source entities it created, in this instance 12. So it's not an artificial mind, it is a separate sentient condition that's being given individuality. Think of it in terms of a series of thoughts that have been hived off from the origin to create another entity, and those thoughts, that sentience, if you want to call it that, has been hived off and assigned to a larger body of energy than we are. But in terms of when the source entity created other beings, smaller beings, it did the same thing. It hived off part of its sentience and assigned it to smaller bodies of energy to go and experience the smaller aspects of the multiversal condition that it created within itself, within half of itself. So you could argue that it's artificial as a mind entity because it's artificial in terms of its separation from the origin. But from our perspective, it is pure sentience that's got its own body of energy. It's just at a higher level up from us, and we exist within that body of energy, and we work within that body of energy. Okay. So I think that really. Well, there's a little comment down here from Phyllis. She said, for instance, the new movie called Transcendence was released last week, which describes how artificial intelligence inside a supercomputer could produce our evil, or could make our prod our evolution forwards by transcending human levels of consciousness to a higher level of consciousness that only computers can access. This what-if scenario is an attempt to create a God inside a computer. Yeah, well, that's basically what, if you think of it, when we do the traversing the frequencies workshops, we actually do a similar thing, don't we? We project our consciousness up into a higher condition, and so we evolve by doing this, by being able to do it whilst we're incarnate. We are evolving. We accelerate our evolution because we're seeing beyond the veil of confusion that we see as a result of the physical universe. So in that respect, it's sort of that way. But if you think of it from a bigger perspective, everything that is in and around us is God. Everything that is in and around us is the source. And higher up from that, everything that is in and around is the origin. So really, if he says, this what-if scenario is an attempt to create a God inside a computer. Well, actually, God is the computer. So God is the laptop I'm using right now, and God is the table that the laptop's sitting on, and God is the chair that I'm sitting on. So it's one of those things where, well, if we really understood ourselves, that everything is God, then we wouldn't need to create these films to try to educate ourselves. But actually, some of these things are created by individuals who are given the information, albeit in a subliminal sense, to educate us, to make us think in a different way, to make us think in a way which is going to take us outside of the thought process that the physical universe is all there is, and that should explain that. Okay. Well, the next item to talk about is the breathing in and out of the multiverse. Now, got a question, I think. Okay. Oh, Ula's just saying thank you very much. Okay, it's a pleasure to try that. That's those questions. Yes. By the way, if anybody does have any questions to want to ask before the Satsanga, please do email them in, and we can try to address them on the Satsangas. It's good to have these questions because people think in different ways, and people learn in different ways, and people's thought processes aren't always the same level, even though we are of a certain level. And to think, and one person's question is one person's understanding, but actually it might make that understanding more robust, and it might enable others to gain a level of understanding that they didn't previously have. So it's always good to have questions. Right, now then, the breathing in and out of the multiverse. In the Upanishads, the Hindu text, they talk about the breathing in and out of the multiverse, where the multiverse, or the universe, for instance, expands, and things happen, entities get created, civilizations get created, work together, and do certain things, and then come back to each other. And then it contracts, and so think of it in terms of an explosion and an implosion. So the universe, the multiverse will expand, things get created, entities get created, civilizations get created, galaxies on certain different levels, planets on certain different levels get created. And then entities experience those different aspects of that environment that's been created by that. And then it's retracted and brought back. And supposedly all the entities are recalled and regrouped and reassimilated into the original energy set. And then there is a new birth of the multiverse, and it is recreated again, and other new entities are created. And this is a cycle which happens on a supposed regular basis within the Hindu texts. But what I established right at the very end of the Origin Speaks, was that actually what is happening is that the source entities, being fully sentient entities themselves, can and do move their sentience from one body of energy to another body of energy. So they move their sentience from one part of the, shall I say, the area of self-awareness of the origin, work with it, create whatever they need to create to experience it in its most profound state. In our instance, our source entity created a multiverse and populated it with countless billions of smaller versions of itself to get down, get dirty, and work with the minute detail of that multiverse and experience it in its minute state and its most profound state. And then when all of those entities have experienced that totally, and they've evolved, and they've worked their way up the multiverse, and they've come back into being reunited with their source and become one with the source again, they don't lose their individuality as such, but they can reintegrate with source and become one with the source fully, whilst still maintaining a level of personality. When all of the entities have done that, what does the source do? It's finished its job, hasn't it, basically? So then it moves on, it moves its sentience, and those which it's created, or that which is created in terms of those individualized units of sentience, to another part of the area of self-awareness within the origin that it is working with, and then gives itself a new body of energy based upon those energies that it's moved its sentience to, and creates another environmental condition, and or creates another series of entities to populate it. Now this would be, if you look at it from the perspective of the Hindu texts, the population, or should I say the movement of the sentience of a source entity from one point within the area of self-awareness of the origin to another point, is the contraction, the breathing in. Okay, the breathing in of the multiverse is the contraction. Everything's been brought back again because everything has succeeded and has experienced that which it's supposed to have experienced. Becomes the energetic aspect is removed, leaving just pure sentience. And so the source entity then moves from one point within the origin to another point within the origin. And when it's established a body of energy and decides to create, should it decide to do so, an environmental condition within itself, or and put boundaries around itself within a certain set of energies, and it creates this multiversal condition or other levels of condition, it then wants to experience that condition. And so it expands it out again. It creates a multiversal condition or something within this area, this body of energy that it has commandeered now. It's commandeered as energies. And so it expands back out into that area. So those other parts of its sentience, those smaller units of sentience, those individualized units of itself that is created to experience the very, very small parts of this new area that it's in. And so this expansion of these little units of sentience out into this new environmental condition is the breathing out and the expansion again. And so these entities will go out as using bodies of energy, and they may or may not go through the incarnate process. Whatever they need to do, they will do to allow them to evolve, and they will work their way up the energetic steps, so to speak, to get to the point where they are, again, they've achieved all their evolutionary condition that they can achieve whilst in this particular environment, and they reintegrate with source again. So then the source breathes in again, and all the sentience is reabsorbed back into this bigger body of sentience called the source entity, and it disassociates that sentience and moves to another part of the area of self-awareness of the origin and commandeers more energies and creates another body of energy and creates another environment within itself and repopulates it with those individualized and smaller units of sentience that it's got, it's created previously, and in some instances, or in most instances right now from our perspective, they're given smaller bodies of energies to work with, and those bodies of energies can be used or detached from in terms of the sentience. And so that's an example of how I picked it up in terms of how our source sensitive or the source sensitives move around within the area of self-awareness of the origin, expanding and contracting their sentience within a known body of energy that they've commandeered. And what I've been told is that this is the third time our source entity has done this. It's in a condition of expansion right now, and at some point it'll come into a contraction when all the true energetic cells have evolved to the point where they can reintegrate with the source, and then that sentience will be recalled totally within the sentience that is the source, and the body of energy that the source has currently got will be disassociated from that sentience, and the sentience of the source will move on to another area, and again it'll commandeer another body of energy and expand its sentience into those areas within that body of energy within an environmental condition it might or may not want to make. Okay, so that's an example of what I've picked up and how it relates to this breathing in and breathing out of the multiverse, and how it relates to the sort of the Upanishads within the Hindu texts. And I have to say I was really very, very pleased when I received this information, because there was always a little bit of, so to say, concern in the back of my mind as to how all these different things have come into being, and the explanations have come into being, and where they've come from. And when modern information starts to tie up with ancient information, you then know that the information that you're picking up is valid and is robust, which is good. Okay, so Marnie's just asked a question. Do these expansions and contractions correspond to galactic timescales like the Andromeda colliding with the Milky Way in the future? That's a good question, actually. I'm just going to ask for confirmation on that. Right. The answer I've got is there's two things here. There's two sides to this expansion. There is a natural expansion of the lower frequency aspects of the environment, where they will naturally move away from each other due to this intention of the source to create something which is expanding. And there is the expansion of the sentience, that is the source, that has been individualized, and has been assigned to smaller bodies of energy, which is what we are basically. And so we move out into that environment to experience that environment at the same sort of time. And so the physical aspect is a sort of milestone, a signpost to suggest that there is normal expansion there, and it's as a result of the intention of the source to expand and experience different aspects of itself by experiencing different parts of those energies, which is as commandeered within the origin. Now, interestingly enough, the contraction of a physicality within an environment that is within a source is purely a reassignment of those energies back into their original condition. So, if, for instance, the source entity decided to use a body of energy to house its sentience and use that body of energy to create a multiversal environment or some sort of environment where it can project those individualised units of its own sentience into to experience different parts of it, and those parts of the frequencies associated with what we call the physical universe are in a state of movement, then as a result of that creation, then you could argue that the movement otherwise will be a contraction based upon the need to get that energy back into its original condition in the first place, that it was in the first place. So the source entities move around the origin, experiencing different aspects of it from the perspective of the location within the origin and how those energies are manifest within the origin, and then they move on basically, but they have to return it back to what it was, because they're commandeered energy. They work with that energy, they create with that energy, and then they will have to put it back to where it was so they can move on to the next point. Because actually, a source entity, another source entity might want to use that same energy that's been used by a previous source entity, and so it will need to create whatever it's going to create from an environmental perspective and an entity perspective in its own way, rather than using the work that a previous source entity has done. Okay, I think Marnie's about to ask you more questions here. Right. Anybody got any more questions on this at all? Okay. Okay, I think I've answered Marnie's question, but looks like she just said thanks. Right, okay. Ula's asking a question. Okay. Okay, you thought the energy was purified, made fresh. Yeah, it's put back into its original condition. It's like it's like a factory reset, if you want to call it that. It's put into a condition that is the same as it was previously. It's a bit like yeah, it's a bit like a factory reset basically. If we buy a mobile phone and we personalise it by putting lots of different software apps on it, if we wanted to sell that phone, we'd probably remove those software apps because they're specific to us. And to do that, we do a factory reset. So it deletes all those applications that we put on there and puts the phone back into its fresh state. Okay. Good. Does the source entity do that? Okay, I'll ask another question. Does the source entity do that to all its energies too? When it moves on, yeah. When a source entity moves on to another place, to another point within the physical, within the area of self-awareness within the origin, it will have to put that back into its original state as well, so that other source entities can use that particular area, for instance, and the energy associated with that area, and do what they need to do with it, rather than having to, before another source entity can reuse it, because otherwise, another source entity would be working with energies that have been already manipulated by another source entity, but rather than using those energies themselves, experiencing them in their pure state, and then manipulating them to experience what they want to experience with them. Okay. Right, it's been a little bit sort of technical today. Anybody got any other questions before we move into the meditation? We've gone through 3/4 of an hour very, very quickly. No? Okay. Right. Okay. So what I wanted to do then is the end of meditation, which in this instance was going to an old meditation we've done, where we're healing a specific person or friend. And in this instance, it could be ourselves, it could be a loved one, it could be people that we know who need help. But let's see if we can do it for somebody else, if we can do. So what I'd like you to do now is to just sit in your chairs, your back straight and your feet firmly on the ground, and close your eyes. Put your closed eye vision focused upon the area, the origin of the third eye, which is in between the eyebrows and above the bridge of the nose. Put your hands palm uppermost on the tops of your thighs, just around the same area where the thighs meet the lower body. And I want you to imagine that you are in a white corridor. Same function that we've always used to get together, okay? Because of course we're going to do this in metta concert. So everybody that's got somebody who needs to be healed will be affected by the synergetic effect of the metta concert from all of us. I believe there's around 7 of us here right now, so that will allow us to all help somebody else become healed. So there's 7 times 7, which is I think 49. So imagine you're in this white corridor. And the white corridor has obviously a wall left and right hand side, but there's no doors on this wall on either the left or the right hand side. But right at the bottom of this corridor, which is only about 50 or 60 metres away, there is a door. And I want you to walk down, or we'll use the mentally spoken word to achieve the same level of intention, to walk down this corridor and when you get to the door, open the door. Okay. When you open the door, you see inside the door 7 chairs, all in a circle. Okay. And I'm sitting on one of the chairs. So I want you to just imagine that you come down and sit either on my left hand side or my right hand side and hold either my left hand with your right hand or my right hand with your left hand. And I want you to imagine that everybody else is holding somebody else's left hand with their right hand and somebody else's right hand with their left hand. Not specifically me or holding my left or right hand, but that you are holding my left and right hand and everybody else is forming the circle, so to speak. But if you all imagine that you're sitting down by the side of me, that's okay. And then imagine everybody else is forming the circle. That's the way to think of it. Because the link through me enables us all to work together in synergy. And so we have in this circle myself and Ula, and Yvonne and Mo, and Lily and John, and Marnie and Marisa. And if Jeremy's there, Jeremy as well. From Mo's side, which would make it 8, which is good, 8 times 8. So in this circle, I want you to imagine that there is almost like a round area of space that can create a hologram. And this hologram, I want you to use your intention to use as an image of this individual who needs healing. And so in a little circle of people, everybody's linked together in this circle, initially through either taking my right hand with their left hand or my left hand with their right hand. And we're all together, working together in synergy. There's 7 or 8 of us, all together, working together for the common cause of healing somebody we know who desperately needs healing. So this person is in the centre of us now. These people that we want healing are in the centre of our circle, our meta concert-based circle. And so while we're here, I want you to imagine that your crown chakras are extended and your heart chakra is extended as well. The front aspect of your heart chakra and your crown chakra. And that energy from the source pours into you through your heart chakra. Energy from the source pours into you from your crown chakra. And that energy comes through you and then projects out from your heart chakra to this person that needs healing. So imagine the source entity energy coming in through your crown chakra, down your spinal plexuses, your heart line for instance, and then goes out through the front aspect of your heart chakra. Engulfing, or should I say, initially covering the individual who needs to be healed in a small egg of energy. And this energy that's coming through us, that's directed to them, in this 7 or 8 people together, is permeating them. It's moving within them. This energy moves within and without the atomic structure of that which they are, and the levels below the atomic structure. So the space in between the structure is being permeated by this energy. It is pure energy. It is harmonious energy. It is energy that is not dysfunctional. It hasn't been in a dysfunctional area. It is part of the source, and the source is never dysfunctional. And so this energy permeating through the person who needs the help, needs the healing, is associated with the source entity energy whilst incarnate. And so any disharmonies that are there are now negated, because the amount of energy that's going through them via us smooths all the dysfunctional energy out that was associated with this person. And so they are cleansed. Are cleansed of their dysfunction. Any ailment or illness that they had is removed, because it can't exist in this fully pure condition. It's impossible for it to exist in a pure condition, because dysfunction happens within the physical realm, not the fully energetic realm, and certainly not in the source entity realm. The energy is associated with the source entity. And so if we look at this person, this hologram of this person that's in the middle of our circle, we see the person going from a dark colour, whereas darker colours, or should say blotches of dark colour around them where their dysfunctional, disharmonious conditions are, is starting to be removed, and this darkness starts to even out to a greyness, which evens out to becoming a whiteness, which evens out to becoming a goldy, iridescent gold and silverness, which becomes even more iridescent and almost too bright to see. These people, this person that we're healing, is now fully integrated with source density energy. There is no disassociation with the source density energy. There is only the source density energy within and without that individual. That individual is not a separate entity anymore. It is one with the source and is healed as such because the energies are pure. There is no dysfunction, no disharmony. Everything is in order. And so with this energy permeating through them, within and without them, they now are healed and are in pure harmony with the source entity energy. So with this knowledge of their healing, them being healed through association with the pure aspect of source entity energy, we can now let them go. And in doing so, we stop the energies flowing through us, the energies that were flowing through from our crown chakra down our spine to our plexuses that are part of the areas where the chakras join the rest of the body, physical form. The energy stops flowing, and this person who was previously being energized by all of the energy going through all of the different participants of this metta concert, each of those energies beaming in towards them through the heart chakra, is now no longer associated with that energy, but has maintained a high level of energetic status as a result of the exposure to it and the metaphysical, meta-concert based synergy that is and does take effect when we all work together in this way. And so, in essence, we can imagine that they float off because they are so light now, they can't possibly stay grounded here. They can't possibly stay at this level of frequency. And so we imagine that they float off into the sky above us, for instance. If there was sky in the room, these entities, these people we've healed, would float up out of this circle of meta-concert attendees and going through the ceiling of the roof of the room that we're in and out of the building and off into higher frequency areas. And so with them now liberated from their disease, their dysfunction, their lower frequency condition, they are now healed. We can now disassociate ourselves from this circle. And so those of you who are holding my left hand with your right hand, or my right hand with the left hand, you can now let go and stand up from your chair. And walk towards the door. Open the door, close it behind you. So walk out of the room, close the door behind you, and walk back up that corridor, that white corridor. And when you've moved back up to the white corridor, it's the place where you started from within that corridor. You can then open your eyes, come back into the room. And if you have any water with you, you can have a drink of water. And come back into the room fresh in the knowledge that the work that you've done with whoever was in the circle that you've put in there who needed healing is now re-energized, high in frequency, pure in frequency, and no longer has any dysfunctional energies associated with them. Okay. So, how are you all after all that?
Very nice, guys.
Great. Thank you, John. Okay, brilliant. You okay? So I'll just ask you, you okay? Yvonne's okay? Good?
Yes, thank you.
And Lula's just said great healing energy, thank you. Okay. Lily just said something. Actually, thank you so much. She said, it's wonderful. I had to heal myself, and neck pain is now gone. Brilliant. That's a good piece of work. So well done for healing yourself. It's always good to have heal ourselves sometimes. And great stuff. So, how are you, Mo? Okay, Marita said thank you. Good.
Yeah, I'm amazing. Amazing.
Good. Continue to be amazing. Fantastic stuff. Good. John's okay. John's okay. You still okay, John? You feeling nice and...
Yeah, no. I went very deep in the meditation, so I'm feeling still lots of expansive energy.
Fantastic stuff. Fantastic. Good. How are you, Marley?
I'm good. I'm drained. I felt really a lot of energy come through me.
Fantastic. Good stuff. And how's Marita? Are you feeling okay, Marita?
Yes, I'm okay. I started crying, so I think there was a lot of relief, but I didn't heal myself. So
okay. No, that's good. That's good. Thank you. Good stuff. Thank you, everybody. Okay, everybody. That brings us to the end of the Satsanga this time. It's going to be about the 31st of May, the next one, because I'm on the road and I need to make sure I've got enough time to get back and prepare for it. So it'll be about the 31st of May. We'll talk about the Om next time, and if anybody has any questions they want to forward before then, I can integrate that into it as well. But it's wonderful working with you all again, and continue to do the good work. And good evening to you all, or good morning to you all, or whatever. And
Thanks.
see you all soon again. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much,
Okay.
guys.
Thank you all.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Did you see the aliens in Crete?